Oh, we're on. Welcome back to the SNS podcast, week 2. Technically, it's still week 1. We're watching Virginia Tech and West Virginia right now, Texas A&M, UCLA, and then Georgia Tech still plays Tennessee tomorrow night. But we're pretty much through the majority of week 1, and pretty interesting week. There were some teams that started kind of slow in the top 10, but I guess found their footing in the second half of most of their games. And we said in last week's podcast, for all 8 of you that watched it pretty much, that this week is going to be one of the bigger weeks that we can remember in recent history as far as like top tier matchups. Ohio State plays Oklahoma, Notre Dame plays Georgia, Auburn plays Clemson, Stanford plays USC. There's a lot of good games this week, even outside just those 4. So I guess we'll kind of just recap the 2 games that we talked about last week, Michigan, Florida, and Alabama, Florida State. There's not going to be too much to recap since both games were, one team was dominant over the other, but we'll kind of recap that real quick. Maybe talk about our own teams for a second since it's our podcast and we can do what we want, and then we'll start getting into week 2. So,
oh my God.
Yeah.
That was Virginia Tech just tried to run like the triple option, and it got sniffed out really bad. Really quick. Jesus.
Yeah.
Corey, what the hell?
Yeah, hopefully, if any of you bet Virginia Tech, West Virginia, hopefully you have the under. Or West Virginia, I guess, because I'm a dummy and took Virginia Tech so far. So, Addison, as far as Michigan and Florida goes, we'll get into that game real quick. You don't have to give me like a lengthy breakdown, but what did you think about that game? Are people, it's week 1, so people could definitely be overreacting to a lot of things, but you were pretty impressed with Michigan, weren't you?
Yeah, Michigan was, I would say, after Alabama, the second most impressive team of the weekend. I don't think it's an overreaction to say that they're going to be really good this year. Basically, just because some of the questions that we had about them going into the year, they look fine on defense at least. With the guys they lost, they've got a lot of good athletes on D. The D line was just dominant. The biggest question for them is quarterback. If it wasn't for Wilton Spate and some, of his turnovers, this game would not even have been close at all. I thought they pretty much completely dominated Florida, and if you take away those turnovers, it wasn't even close. Florida just simply could not move the ball for most of the day on Michigan. So.
Yeah, it was the closest blowout I've ever seen. Actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
That game, without the pick sixes, Michigan wins that game by probably 30+ points.
And one of them was a really bad. He put the ball right in Florida guys' numbers.
Yeah. It's the with Florida, McElwain was supposed to come in and really kind of revamp that offense. They have not really been potent on offense since Urban Meyer was there, and it's kind of the same old story with them. I think Florida had some athletes on defense, but you definitely start to get worn down at some point, and Michigan found their running game early. I thought they were pretty dominant on both lines for the most part, and I agree with Addison. We'll see in the next I feel like from week 1 to week 2, teams usually make like their biggest jumps, and then the first kind of quarter of the season we start to see what kind of teams they are. But Michigan pretty much owned an SEC team that's supposed to be pretty good. So Michigan was really impressive. Steele, do you have anything to add to that game?
No, the D line of Michigan, obviously very productive. Won the line battle in the game and made it really bad for whoever played quarterback for Florida. So 2 West Virginia players are dead. Everybody's just dead right now. That guy's wallowing in a lot of pain right now. Oh man. Anyway, kind of transitioning out of that game into the Florida State game. Bama looked really good. Obviously, Florida State's got a stout team, but losing Francois to the news just breaking that he ripped or partially tore his patella. He's done. So I'm not quite sure, honestly, what they have at reserve or quarterback. The reserve only got a couple minutes of play versus Bama, and obviously that game was well in hand at that point. So Bama looked probably the most impressive out of most of the teams, depending on competition in week one, obviously playing another top 3 team and manhandling them. So that's pretty much it. I mean, pretty standard reactions and whatnot.
Yeah, I think, Bama looked like Bama. I think something that we will want to see, I think all of us on the pod and you guys out there that know anything about football, I think that we would like to see Bama be tested to the point where like they need to throw the ball down the field, because I think there's still questions out there about Jalen Hurts and his ability to throw the ball down the field. I think he provides them, with a dynamic option at quarterback because he can do some damage with his legs. But if Bama gets to the point where teams can contain the running game, which, that's, saying a lot. They have a great offensive line and great backs, but that is something to probably be on the lookout for in the future. But they look really dominant for the most part against another very talented roster in Florida State. Too bad for them and Francois, the backup, looked pretty overwhelmed in that game. Now, it's his first action against Alabama, so I don't expect him to be good, but he was not a very highly touted guy coming in, I don't think, and Florida State is probably in a little bit of trouble. They definitely are probably going to slip in the ACC a little bit this year. So, do you have anything to add about the Bama game? Or?
Yeah, I actually I was impressed with both teams. I thought it was a pretty evenly played game. If you look at the stats, pretty even. Yards are almost even. First downs almost even. Time of possession, penalties. The biggest difference in the game was turnovers.
Right.
It was 3-0. Florida State had 3 turnovers. Bama made some special teams plays, so it was those kind of plays in the special teams and turnovers, the kind of plays that you see, say, the teams making that really made the difference and made the score, or the final score not totally indicative of the way the game was played, I thought, but Bama just dominated field position because of special teams and defense.
It's funny, I think this week, since it's like the first official week basically back of football, for college that is at least, I think we got reminded how important special teams are, how important it is to establish the run, to stop the run, and turnovers. Like the simple things that will never change, even as offenses progress, like in this day and age with like tempo, we talk about like spread offenses and all this stuff, you still need to be able to establish the run and win the line of scrimmage and special teams. Look at the Maryland-Texas game and how important special teams were.
Yeah.
Bama, Florida State, Michigan, Florida, turnovers, special teams. Those things, those parts of the game cannot be ignored. They're very important. So, I don't know if you guys remember, I guess I'll start just in case you don't remember, but I was going to recap at least our most confident bets of this weekend. I had Colorado State plus 7.5 against Colorado as my most confident bet, and that line went all the way down to 3 or 3.5, I think. Colorado ended up covering, winning 17-3, I believe. So missed on that one. There were definitely some atrocious offensive pass interference calls that may have hurt Colorado State to the point where they may in fact have covered in that game, but they pretty much got dominated throughout the game from what I saw. I didn't get to see the game, so I don't know for sure, but just looking at the box score and reading stuff on Twitter and seeing how Colorado actually was a lot better on D than people thought they were going to be in week one. So I missed on that one. I don't know if you guys remember your most confident bets, but
Over Cal.
Sonny
Dykes.
Yeah, Sonny Dykes, who
is not at Cal
doesn't
anymore.
actually coach.
My bad on that shout out.
Still
They-
on a similar type of tack.
Right, so they scored a lot of points, as we kind of thought. I know Addison and I were both on Cal, but us taking the over in that game, a pretty stout line. A couple of plays throughout the week, or yesterday. The Red Wolves covered at Nebraska, 14.5. I can't remember. Was it Ball State?
Yeah, Ball
State covered
+6 against
Almost straight up win.
Almost straight up win.
Which I had money line, yeah.
Right. So the MAC showed out, at least in terms of covering bets for us.
For sure.
At least this week. So
Addison, do you remember your most confident bet?
Yeah, my most confident. Well, like Steele said, we both had Cal,
Yeah.
and they were double-digit dog and straight up won. South Carolina was my most confident. I had that at +6, and they also
straight up
Straight
won.
up,
So randomly airball on the under there. A lot of offense.
Yeah, I had the under
Lot of
that.
offense.
I had under Michigan.
The
Florida.
South Carolina took care of it.
Yeah, some bad picks there. So pod overall, I don't remember if Corey had like a most confident bet, but for us three, we went 2-1 for our most confident bets, so that's pretty good. If you guys are following it all, I'll read of you. But so this week, before we get into any kind of bets now, like I said, we're watching Virginia Tech, West Virginia live, so it is Sunday night, and these lines have just come out. There's going to be a lot of shifting and not really over-unders yet, so we haven't really had a lot of time to analyze things, and we kind of off the top of our heads. But before we get into those, let's just start getting right into these huge games this weekend. I guess we can start with Auburn Clemson. That's a pretty big one. It is at Clemson. I believe the line is 6.5 currently right now. Clemson destroyed Kent State at home, as they should. Kelly Bryant, who is filling in for Deshaun Watson this year, he looked very good.
Go and get it, Cam.
There you go. It's against Kent State, though, so I'm interested to see him against an SEC defense in Auburn. Interested to see what Auburn looks like, considering they played some terrible.
I was about to say, I didn't even see their game.
I think they won like 41-7 against somebody really bad.
Yeah.
I don't even know who it is,
Who?
but Auburn.
Georgia Southern.
Okay, yeah.
Georgia
So, I don't know a ton about either of these teams yet. I all I know is from what I've read preseason and going into this game. I guess I'll go first real quick. Right away, I think I would take Clemson minus 6.5, just because it is under that 7 line. And I think you're getting some value with them. I think in college, to me at least, I think home field is worth a little bit more than 3 points in places like Death Valley. It might be 4 or 5 potentially. So I think there's actually some value in Clemson. And I do like Auburn a lot this year, but I think Clemson is very tough at home. I know it was against Kent State, but they looked pretty solid last week and probably worked out some kinks if they had any. So I look forward to seeing Bryant against that defense. I look forward to seeing Jared Stidham for Auburn, who was from Baylor, correct? Highly touted prospect. I look forward to seeing him against that very athletic and fast Clemson defense.
Yeah. I would agree with you initially in taking Clemson minus 6.5. I don't know if I'm going to bet this game, but
Yeah.
that's the way I would lean.
Right. Yeah,
You might be able to get it at 7 if you're an Auburn better
Right,
this
right.
week, but we didn't really learn anything about either team from week 1 since both had easy games against highly overmatched teams. I'm just looking at Auburn's stats right now because I didn't see their game at all. Stidham didn't have great numbers. He was 14 of 24, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. I mean, they're not going to show too much probably.
No, it's week 1, yeah. I mean, hey, Virginia has a hooker on their team.
And a Notre.
Oh.
Former Notre Dame recruit. And then they went with Avery Davis. No big deal.
Anyway.
Yeah, so Addison was kind of starting to lean towards talking about what I was about to mention is these are obviously the preliminary lines and they're going to shift. So never take a bad number, and there's a lot to dive into what that actually means. So if you guys have questions or see a number throughout the week, you can always comment on the video, and we're pretty good about responding quickly.
Yeah.
If somebody has a question or concern of a line they see that may shift drastically, lines don't stay stagnant. That's for sure. Good pass. So definitely, when we see these lines, like Nick said originally, they're going to shift, and we're not going to be dummies and take a number or a line that's just not good or doesn't have value or has lost value.
Sure.
Because it's just the way the market will dictate and move it each way.
Yeah.
So for me in this game, like Addison kind of said, probably not going to bet it, but if something happens in terms of the line shifting dramatically one way or another, I could be on both sides of the coin on this one. Both really good teams. It's going to be a fun matchup, so not too much to say on that.
Do you guys? I mean, we're gonna give our picks against the spread just kind of like because it is a marquee game. Do you just want to say we'll add who we think is going to win just straight up then too? Do you like Clemson?
Yeah. Clemson to win, probably to cover.
Same thing.
You said current line 6.
6.5.
Yeah,
I think, or
under a touchdown. I would probably take Clemson. So
Okay. I think the next matchup we can discuss is Stanford USC. I believe that line
Open at 4.
open at 4. What is it currently?
6.5. It's going up. I'm
Yeah,
surprised.
Right. So, yeah, this game is interesting. USC.
Stanford, right?
Yeah, USC Stanford. It's at USC.
At USC.
UC they struggled a little bit with Western Michigan. Yesterday that was a pretty tight ball game till maybe I guess just the fourth quarter or halfway through the fourth even. But we had some questions going into the year about USC's offensive line, and kind of surprisingly, Western Michigan racked up I think 250.
just scored again.
Oh wow.
Oh, we're gonna hit this over in the first half.
Yeah,
Anyway,
touchdown. There we go.
and Virginia Tech just scored.
So as far as USC goes, I think they gave up 250 plus rushing yards to Western Michigan
263.
to a MAC school. So I'm a little concerned in a sense that I think Stanford's line will be stronger than Western Michigan's, and Stanford and David Shaw are known for asserting their will on the ground. So that's something to keep in mind in this game. I would think that the way that line's moving, if you guys could get Stanford at 7, I like that number a lot. That's what I would go with. I don't know if I'm betting this game or not, but I do think that game, I think there's some value in Stanford there. And I do think the matchup on the lines will be very interesting to watch. It'll be interesting to see if Darnold has enough time to throw, if they can stop the run on defense. And SC is an okay atmosphere. I've been there. When Ohio State played there, we got killed back in, I don't remember what year it was. I think it was maybe 08. We had like 25,000 Ohio State fans in the stadium. So they're not like, it's not like, oh, it's at USC. That like makes a huge difference. It's not Stanford, so it's obviously different. But I think I would lean Stanford if you can get it at 7. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I don't actually know who's going to win straight up. I'll go with Stanford. I think that they're capable of pulling it off, and so I'll just go with the upset on the Sunday night here without really doing much research. Addison, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah. Like you were saying about Western Michigan, rushing for that many yards on USC, that's definitely a concern going into this one. Western does have a couple of established running backs and like a good O-line, but we're talking about MAC levels. So like for the MAC, they have a good running game, but you don't want to see a team that's considered top 10, having really top 5, having a MAC school rack up that many rushing yards on them, especially in a completely one-dimensional attack, really. So if they were able to do what they wanted offensively on the ground, then it's definitely a concern going into this game for me. I would definitely lean Stanford at this point with the points. If I'm gonna pick straight up, I'd probably still say USC. Although we definitely had some questions early or in the preseason about how much hype USC was getting and are they overvalued.
Yeah.
So, with that line, where the line's at right now and where it's going, it seems to me that they still might be overvalued. So we'll see about that.
Well, yeah, the good thing too is like with big blue blood brands like USC, I feel like public they love to bet them, and I feel like that number could definitely get to 7. So that's why I say,
especially SC.
yeah, and if it can get to 7, if you can get to 7 and take Stanford at the point, I think it's actually there's a lot of value in Harrison. So still, go ahead, man.
Yeah, this is probably, after a little bit more research, is probably going to be one of my strongest plays of the week. Is going to be Stanford at 4 or any other number above it. I think they're going to dominate the line of scrimmage more so than what Western Michigan did against USC. Stanford actually was going to be one of my teams that I mentioned that was most impressive in week 1. Although they played Rice, we all know that the competition level is a joke, sure, comparative. But, going to a different country, showing up and just dominating them 62-7 and just taking care of business, no messing around. Just the game was over like after drive 1. Was just pretty impressive just on how David Shaw runs that program, runs that team. And he's just a no-nonsense kind of guy and just gets it done. So I think this is going to be, they come back. Aston said the line is climbing for Stanford, which in my eyes is fine because I already think it's a good bet at 4 or 4.5. So if you can get it to a key number through 7 at a touchdown, I mean, I think that's just getting a gift. But not too much else to say. I mean, they're my pick to win it, and like I said, I'll just keep an eye on the line and make sure nothing funky happens with it.
Okay.
And probably one of the most confident plays would be Stanford.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that's definitely reasonable, and might even be one of my bets sure to go wrong for the week as well. So we'll get into that after these next couple games here. Next game we'll get into. I guess we can do your boys still. We'll get into Notre Dame and Georgia. Last week Notre Dame played Temple. I'll let Steele kind of go over that game since he was able to watch the whole game, and I watched the first half, but I'll let him take that over, or I guess analyze that. And then Georgia played, who'd they play?
App State.
App State. Okay, so, and they won. I know Jacob Eason got benched in that game for some guy named Fromm.
I got hurt.
Eason got hurt? Oh, okay, I didn't know that. So I thought he got benched or something.
Yeah, I didn't know. I just saw the new quarterback and I didn't know what happened there, but it looked like.
Do we have
It looked like
is he supposed to be playing this next week?
Yeah, it's questionable.
He
Probably
did-
not going to play.
Okay.
they were showing the numbers of Georgia's offense with Easton and with this Fromm guy, and they're a lot better with Fromm, just at least
In that one game, right?
Yeah. I mean, Easton wasn't in there for very long, but
Okay. Steele, why don't you? I mean, you can give us a little breakdown of how Notre Dame looked last week, and then transition that. Like, how do you think this game will go? And what's Addison? Why don't you give us a line? Unless you already know it.
there isn't a line.
Notre Dame is -4
4 right now.
at home.
Okay.
That's what it opened at. I haven't seen any movement on it yet. Notre Dame, my prediction for their Temple game was 49-13. 42-13. They won 49-14. So I was pretty close on that. For that, they did pretty well. Came out hot. Dominated the line on offense at least. The left side of the line's got a couple of NFLers that did really well. Run game was good. They ran for over 300 yards. 3 different guys had over 100 yards. A couple good plays in the passing game. Brandon Wimbush, I think came out to be what I kind of expected, was playmaker, but kind of shaky based on it being his first start. So it was kind of hit or miss. Like he'd kind of get happy feet and scramble, but much better athlete in terms of running the ball than Deshaun Kaiser. So he was just straight line runner, much faster to be able to pick up a first down. So he wasn't lumbering down the field.
Right.
Defensively, kind of what we expected as well. Much sounder in position to make the tackle, and in this case, a lot of guys did make the tackle. A couple instances of guys overrunning the player or the play itself, but overall pretty stout in terms of kind of shutting down the Temple offense, especially in the second half after Elko made some adjustments on defense. They rotated a ton of guys. They said they're going to do that all year, something that they got away from in the last couple of years. So guys are fresher, especially throughout the season. So the rotations are deeper, especially on the D-line and linebacker position. A lot of guys got some playing time. So overall, good performance, especially with the new regime under Kelly there. But obviously the level of competition is going to step up markedly here with Georgia coming into town, who dispatched App State pretty easily at home, 31-0, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So this is going to be kind of like a reverse play for me. All offseason I've told these guys I'm not confident in this game. I think Georgia has markedly better talent than Notre Dame, and I think they're one step ahead, at least on defense. Their offense run game is best in the nation, or one of. I think they've got question marks on the O-line and question marks at quarterback, obviously, with Easton's injury. So if there's going to be an opportunity for Notre Dame to win the game and be confusion on the O-line or confusion for the quarterback, which Elko is really good at creating. It's just a matter of can Notre Dame's D-line, linebackers, and even safety play, match up, position by position with Georgia's offense. I think they can. I think the line's indicative of a little bit of how Notre Dame played this week, as well as it being a home game. that home valuation for Notre Dame is usually around a 2 to 3 point boost in the line. So obviously Vegas thinks this game to be close. Probably won't bet it, but if I had to, gun to my head, I'd probably take Georgia. Just thinking, always take the better team with the points. But it does smell a little bit fishy. With a top 15 team playing an unranked or potentially 25th ranked Notre Dame team, depending on where the polls put them at the start of this week. Again, Vegas doesn't care what the rankings are, so when you see a 15th ranked team go on the road and play an unranked team and be a dog, it's like, oh, well, that's crazy. So Vegas kind of maybe knows something in terms of the talent level, or maybe matchups wise, that home field advantage is a little bit stronger than people think. So, like I said, gun to my head, I'd probably, in my opinion, take the better team, which is Georgia. But I wouldn't be shocked in the least if Notre Dame somehow won by 10 or 14 points, and it was like Vegas kind of tipped their cap saying, hey, we told you so. Thank you.
Yeah, Notre Dame, in the half that I watched them against Temple, was first half, they looked at least, it's the first half of the first game of a new year, but I remember texting these guys that they at least looked like they were playing better assignment football and defense. They didn't look like they were out of place a lot of times. And so, if you're going to be in the right spot to make the play, then you're going to be able to make the play more often than not, obviously. So I definitely was looking to see how they improved on defense and how it was different from Van Gorder's defense, which was like NFL zone blitzing schemes, if I'm not mistaken. So kind of confusing. Now you got Elko in there and kind of let the kids run around and play a little bit more. I thought Winbush, I don't really have anything to add. I think Steele's right. I think it was kind of like first game jitters, but you could see the talent there. Kid's got a big arm and he can make plays. I think Notre Dame, if they can really rely on that run game and let him play off of that, as most teams really should, Adams can get yards, and that O-line can create a push. So I agree with Steele. I think this line is weird to me, and it doesn't make a ton of sense. I think I'm going to take Notre Dame just because I feel like, I don't know, it's weird. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to take them. SEC teams that are finally starting to travel out of state to go play other teams, maybe it's a wake-up call that some of these other teams outside that conference could play some ball. So I'm going to take Notre Dame to win the game, and actually, I'm going to take them to cover that spread. So, Addison, go ahead.
Vegas Insider isn't listing a line yet, so I don't know why, but
I think we saw it at 4 the last time we saw it.
Yeah, the preseason was like Notre Dame -3.
Right.
I'd probably take, if Georgia's a dog, I would take the points.
Mm-hmm.
You're totally guessing at what it is
right
now.
Right.
I think. Straight up, I like Notre Dame still. Last year, by most metrics, I'd say Notre Dame was actually rated a better team, even though they had a much worse record than Georgia.
Yeah.
So I still want to see how much Georgia's improved against a real team. App State's decent for a Sun Belt team, but yeah, the team with the talent that Notre Dame has. So we'll see what the number ends up being, and I'll have a little more clarity there. But probably Georgia and the points.
Okay. So you have Notre Dame winning straight up. I heard you say right.
Yeah.
So it's 2 for Notre Dame straight up. Steele did you have Notre Dame winning the game, or did you said Georgia?
Yeah, no, I said gun to my head. If I had to bet it, I would take, in my opinion, the better team points. But
against the spread,
right.
Straight up.
It's
close enough to what.
Yeah, it's gonna linger in that 3 to 4 point range, we suspect.
Okay.
So if Notre Dame wins by a field goal, sure, Notre Dame wins and Georgia covers.
Okay.
So Baylor sucks again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a funny. I saw on Twitter that if you parlayed Liberty and Howard to both win last week.
Who did Howard beat?
UNLV.
45-point dogs.
Yeah, Howard and Liberty $100 parlay paid you $4.1 million. So
wow.
if any of you had that, you deserve to be in the betting Hall of Fame
Yeah,
basically.
you can come on the pod if you have that
You
ticket.
can literally come on the pod. I don't have to be here.
Yeah,
so,
right.
I'm gonna get this computer from sleeping here, but so the last game, unless you guys think of other games that are worth talking about, will be Ohio State, Oklahoma. They played last year. Ohio State owned Oklahoma down in Norman. Obviously, it's a different year this year. Ohio State played Indiana on Thursday night and started out pretty slow. It was, as an Ohio State fan, pretty frustrating and nerve-wracking. Indiana came out to play. They looked very confident. They made a lot of plays on offense. Their defense was playing fast. They definitely were not allowing our wide receivers to get open. JT Barrett was off the mark on 2 to 3 passes from what I saw. It was pretty disappointing to see that from him. I expect more out of him. But bright spot was true freshman J.K. Dobbins filling in for Mike Weber, returning running back from last year. He ran for 1,000 yards of true frosh. Dobbins is special. If you guys watched the game, the O-line got a lot of push. They made some halftime adjustments. The secondary in that game, Denzel Ward, primary corner, he played very well. But the other corners, Kendall Sheffield, Damon Arnett, they, first game for a lot of those guys with a lot of live game reps, but they definitely, Indiana was taking it to them. The receivers were making plays. They were getting open. Shiano, at halftime, decided we needed to press the receivers a little bit more. Their quick passing game was just, we're giving them too much space and allowing them to, be pretty much do what they want. So the halftime adjustments were good on defense. I thought that once the offense decided to really take it to them on the ground, that opened things up for the passing game. And we saw some guys that if they can get the ball in their hands, if JT gets into a rhythm and he can get them that ball in the intermediate passing game, they can take it the distance. They proved that twice in that game. So I liked what I saw in the second half. I'm definitely a little bit concerned about the young DBs with Oklahoma coming in, and but it's good that they're getting these tests early, and so we'll see. The spread is, I believe, 7. I think it opened at 9. It's been down to 7 already. I would take OSU -7 all day at home against Oklahoma. I think that I think Oklahoma will be improved on defense. We don't know a lot about Oklahoma yet. I don't think they played UTEP and blew them out. Baker Mayfield had incredible numbers in that game, and from the highlights that I saw, it looked like he could just throw up a punt, and Oklahoma's receivers could just grab it and do what they wanted. So I'm not sure if we know a ton about Oklahoma yet, but it will be interesting to see how they try to stop our running game, and it'll be interesting to see their offense, their passing game against our DBs, because Indiana is a solid team, but they're not Oklahoma on offense, so that's definitely a little concerning. Addison, why don't you go ahead and your thoughts on that, and I'll hand it to you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, our game against Indiana, very frustrating first half for us. The second half was a lot better, especially at about the midway point of the second quarter is when it felt like the game changed. And then once we went up by 14, I thought it was pretty much over. Late third there, we were starting to impose our will a little bit. Nick mentioned J.K. Dobbins. That was a guy that we were really excited about going into the year, and we had high expectations, and he still, I'd say, definitely lived up to them. 180 yards, exceeded what Maurice Clarett did in his first game, and from all the things that we heard about, what the coaches say about him, really excited to see what he does the rest of the year. Hopefully Weber is back to 100% for next week.
So he's probable. I don't know if that. I mean, we'll see. Hamstrings are tricky, but
yeah, we were surprised that there were no snaps for Demario McCall, so don't really know what's going on there. But
yeah, that's interesting.
We didn't really need him with the production we were getting out of Dobbins. I thought Indiana was a good team for us to play week 1 to get us ready for this Oklahoma game. They ran about 95 plays on offense. They were going really up tempo. I think that'll end up helping our D. Them getting to see that many plays, that many looks against the team that was their passing game was definitely clicking. With the new guys in our secondary, we want we want them to be prepared for what should be a pretty good passing team in Oklahoma, even though they've got new skill guys. From Oklahoma's perspective, Mayfield had almost a perfect game. He was 19 of 20, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and that's just in one half of football. Then Kyler Murray went in and only had 1 incompletion himself. As far as the run game goes for Oklahoma, they lost their top 2 guys last year, P. Ryan and Mixon. So there are question marks about who's going to be the main back for them this year, and it looks like they kind of spread the wealth around a little bit. So I still don't know who's going to be their main guy as far as the run game goes. As far as the passing game for them, it looks like Mark Andrews, who's their top tight end and probably an All-American candidate at the tight end spot. He had a big game. He's probably going to be their go-to guy there. Another guy to look out for them was Jeff Badette, the grad transfer from Kentucky. He was their leading receiver from the wide receiver spot. So those 2 guys might be the Baker Mayfield's main targets. They've got a lot of new guys, and I hear they've got some freshmen they really like. C.D. Lamb was a highly rated guy. I think C.D. Yeah.
I think it's like C-E-D-E Lamb.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think he's one of their starters too. The fun battle to watch in this one is going to be their O-line versus our D-line. A lot of people rank their O-line as possibly the best in the country. Our D-line, I thought, looked fantastic against Indiana. Indiana wanted to wear them down, and that didn't happen at all. We just kept throwing, wave after wave against them. We played at least 10 guys on the D-line. And even with Indiana throwing a lot of quick throws, I think we're still getting decent pressure, getting our hands on balls when we could get in the face of Indiana's quarterbacks. So as far as the spread in this one, and we're talking 7 right now, we think. I don't know which way this one's going to go. Which way the number's going to go, because it was 9 in the preseason, and now it's 7. So I expect this game to be closer than last year. And last year it wasn't really a contest anyway. I think Oklahoma's D is going to be improved because last year was kind of an anomaly defensively for them. I mean, they are a Big 12 team, but they usually have at least a solid D, so I expect them to be improved there. We still didn't seem to answer too many questions about our passing game, which is the most concerning thing going into it for me. The secondary, I think, for Ohio State has to play better as well. I'd probably, if I'm betting this one, I'd take the points. I think Ohio State will win, but yeah, probably won't bet this one.
I think we saw. I think Phil Steele was on ESPN tonight. And it was said on Twitter too that he thought that number was actually going to get to 10.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if it's 10, I'm definitely.
You're going to take Ohio State anyway, right? So yeah. So you've got Ohio State win straight up. You got Oklahoma covering. I've got Ohio State win straight up. I have Ohio State covering. Steele, if you want to add anything to the breakdown, or obviously.
No, you guys hit all the major points that I would have said. I thought your D-line was as productive as they could have been for a team that was throwing the ball in like less than 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So, and they still were getting pressure, which is pretty crazy. Simi Cobb's really good receiver. A lot of people forgot about him because he was hurt last year. I think Oklahoma will have better playmakers and more of them. I don't know about the size of their receivers. I know that was a concern, but
yeah, that was definitely a problem.
to be fair, Legault and Cobbs were pinpoint and making one-hand catches with their throws and catches. So I don't anticipate that happening weekly for Ohio State's DBs. Obviously, there's talent back there. It's just unproven so far, or they suck. I don't know. The questions are going to be answered a lot more from week 1 to week 2 with being exposed in at some point or to a point, and week 2 getting another test with Oklahoma. So It's a good matchup, good litmus test for Ohio State. Not a cupcake active bye like we like to call them. For them, 7 points. I probably steer clear of the game altogether. I think Ohio State will win. If it does indeed climb to a 2-score spread, I mean, I would take Oklahoma, who has, in my opinion, the weapons to win the game. Addison touched base on it, and I touched it based on it in our first pod, was the game within the game is going to be their O-line versus your D-line. If they can at least slow you down for Baker Mayfield to have time, then sure, they're going to be more than capable of winning that game. I think your offense didn't really answer too many questions in terms of the deep throw game, as like Urban likes to call it. J.K. Dobbins, again, like you guys said, really impressive in a freshman debut. But did they have to throw it deep? I mean, I know Paris Campbell dropped that one deep ball, right? But everything else was close to the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. So, like Addison said, we expect Oklahoma to be better on defense. Going to be a good game. I think Ohio State wins, but like I said, if the line climbs high enough, then sure, yeah, give me a team that's capable of winning with 2 scores worth of points. Yeah. Nothing else to be said.
Okay, so we covered those 4 huge games in week 2. It'll be interesting to see. I think we'll definitely learn a lot more about these teams this week, and we'll be able to make some, I guess, more like confident, more stronger assumptions going forward with this season. I guess we'll wrap up the pod with bets sure to go wrong. I mean, I know it's Sunday night, but you guys have had time to look at a couple lines. If you need a couple more minutes, I'll give mine right away here. I like Stanford, definitely going to be one of my bets, as Steele said. I like it. I also like it anything above 4. I do think there's a chance that it gets to the key number of 7, but I would be comfortable taking it at whatever it is. 6 or 6.5 is fine. I just think that they will win the line of scrimmage, potentially, I mean, on both sides of the ball. And I think that's going to be very problematic for USC. And another one that I saw that I believe is at 13 right now is Navy at home against Tulane. Tulane is not quite as bad this year, at least on paper, as they've been the last couple years. There's no way they could be as bad. I feel like I think it was 2 years ago, we literally bet them or against them like every single week against the spread. And they literally went 0-12 against the spread 2 years ago. So I think Navy, they look pretty good against Lane Kiffin and FAU, and I like them to cover that 13-point spread. I'm trying to think. I think I had another one in my mind, but I can't remember it. If it comes back to me, then I'll do it. But Addison, if you have any, I know it's Sunday night, but if you have any that you like, maybe with the number, even if it's shifted, you would like it, give the people some knowledge.
Well, I like Stanford as well right now, but also another one that's jumping out to me is South Carolina.
Oh, that's the one.
Which is really interesting that they opened as a dog at Missouri.
Yeah, fishy.
Yeah, so it opened at +4 South Carolina, and it looks like it's going down now. I would really like to get South Carolina. I feel like by the end of the week they're going to be a favorite.
I do too. Yeah.
And Missouri
gave up like 50 points to Missouri State.
Missouri State in the first half they gave up 35 points.
Yeah.
And South Carolina. Obviously, I rode them this week. Got me the straight up win over NC State. I thought South Carolina was kind of maybe underrated going into the year, but I'm surprised by that line. So I'd probably go with that right now as my bet.
Okay, so that was the one that I forgot. That's one that I will definitely try to get South Carolina at any points because I think there's a really good chance they're going to be favored by the end of the week. The West Virginia fans are interesting. Steele, if you have any, like I said, I know it's Sunday night. If you have anything that you really like, I know you said you like Stanford. If you saw any other lines, just kind of pop off the screen.
I'm scrolling through them now. The one that pops off is actually an early game Friday. Is Purdue -3 versus Ohio.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
I think Purdue showed big leaps from what we expected and kind of what we saw last year, or definitely what we saw last year with Jeff Bromett, head coach there. Passing attack looked a little bit. It looked like a competent football team. Nick Holt on the defensive side, pretty impressed with their defense. I'm not. Their quarterback play was a little suspect, so I'm not like extremely pumped about it. But I anticipate them winning the game by more than 3 points. That's why I like it, because I think that they'll hold Ohio down. So that's just one that jumps off the page to me. But that's about it.
Okay.
Another one similar to that I saw was Rutgers -3.5, I think, against Eastern Michigan. Rutgers, as we all know, was one of the worst teams in the country last year, and Friday night they actually
competitive.
they were competitive against Washington. They took their early lead. They hung in for the rest of the game. They ended up losing 30-14, but I mean, it definitely wasn't a blowout like pretty much all their games were last year. I think that they're an improved
They
team.
lost like 50-0 a lot.
Yeah, so that's one that I'm gonna do a little more research on and maybe take Rutgers.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think all those. I don't disagree with really any of those. There's just some interesting lines, especially that South Carolina one is really weird. That's really fishy to me. I don't see how they're opening as dogs. So that's one to look out for. But yeah, if you guys, like I said, have any comments or anything ever about the spreads or anything, you guys can let us know in the comment section under the video. Week 2 should be a lot of fun. And next week, we will be recapping week 2, going over some of the same stuff for week 3. Corey from Denver will be in town. I don't know yet. There's a chance he could be live on the pod as he was supposed to be for week 1. So.
That's backwards.
Yeah, it is backwards. So we'll look forward to that. But until next time, this is Addison and Steele and myself for SNS.